Welcome back to This to Digital. We talk about today's video games and the classics that inspire them. I'm Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton. We talk about Microsoft's most recent acquisition. Why would you put that, bro? We talk about Microsoft today.
All right, Matt, you got to be able to say this word here. Otherwise, welcome back to This to Digital. Oh my God, you talked. Okay. Welcome back to This to Digital. We talk about today's video games and the classics that inspire them. I'm your host, Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton. Today, we're talking about Microsoft's most recent trend. Oh, God damn it! Acquisitions!
How hard is that? How hard is that? And I'm Tim. Today, we talk about... Join us today as we talk about Microsoft's most recent acquisitions and possibly adding chat service Discord to them.
All right, we're going to do one take. All right, live here. All right, here we go. This is it. It's in the shoot. That's it. I'm doing it. Calling it here. All right. This episode of This to Digital was recorded in front of a live studio audience. Welcome back to This to Digital. We talk about today's video games and the classics that inspire them. I'm your host, Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton. Today, we're talking about Microsoft's most I can't get the word out, bro. I'm so fucking mad right now. Oh my God. Alright, hey.
Started red. This is a great start. This is a great start, everybody.
I'm red like his fucking shirt, man. Oh, fuck. Alright, I'll just do a take from mine and you can just cut it.
It's too late, man. This is live. This is live in front of a live studio audience, man.
And I'm Matt Keaton. In today's episode, we're talking about Microsoft's most recent acquisitions and the possibility of fucking... This is gonna be like a hot take episode, dude. Most recent acquisitions.
There you go. Finally able to say it. Oh my gosh. We're joined this week with Tim as well, apparently. Man, that was probably the worst intro you have ever done, man. I can't believe it.
I dropped the ball.
Yeah, no, you dropped quite a bit. The writers here are live with us today, and they're messing with the script, so it's not Matt's fault. If you guys could see our script, it's being adjusted live here during this week's episode. You guys won't get to see this live because, unfortunately, you missed it. You missed the tickets to the live studio audience in Orlando, Florida, at the Nickelodeon studio. So sorry about that, guys. But as Matt tried to say earlier, we're talking about Microsoft's recent acquisitions and the possibility of adding chat services such as Discord to that list. But let's take a look at some of the things that Microsoft has acquired in 2021. I mean, you've got like Machine Games, who made Wolfenstein, Tango, which made the Evil Within series, and then ZeniMax, which is probably the most popular one, is parent company to Bethesda and all of its subsidiaries that made, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Dishonored. Like, I mean, what do you think about this, Matt?
I think Microsoft's buying up everything. I think the next thing we're probably going to see is toilet paper branded by Microsoft. But I think it could be a good thing, and I think it could be a bad thing. I think on the good side of it, you've got bigger companies the bigger studios that seem to be kind of falling by the wayside. And integrity of Bethesda has kind of been brought into question lately with the recent Fallout devastation of Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 kind of being rote and mundane and in the same vein. It seems like their games just are behind the times, and I think hopefully the acquisition of Microsoft and buying them up hopefully translates into something positive, successful, and hopefully we definitely see something more from the Fallout franchise or Elder Scrolls. Definitely looking for a follow-up to Skyrim and hoping that comes down the pipeline. I'm kind of curious, though, if, and what speaks to the bad side of it is, I'm wondering if all of these are going to be Microsoft exclusives or if they're just going to kind of help them in the development of their future franchise games.
I mean, what do you think, Tim, on this? I mean, you had quite a bit to say.
Yeah, I would say that purchasing all of these different studios, because the number one issue for a lot of people whenever they looked at the comparison for the new gen consoles was PlayStation 5 has really good exclusive games that are only available for Sony, and Microsoft, even though it was a more powerful console that had the specs for days, the issue that everybody said is, okay, well, what games are you going to play? Like, what is it actually? What's going to take advantage of this? And I think them doing the acquisitions of all these different companies, bringing together all these great minds and adding them to their creators that they already have for things like Halo. That's got their studio working on Halo Infinite coming out. When you've got things like the Rare Studios, where they got Rare Replay, and they got the add-ons for Sea of Thieves that they've done. When you look at what the number one complaint was, is just they need more games. And I think they're doing this, and it's going to pay off in the long run. They're spending a lot of like capital up front for the long haul, which is something I'm happy to see, that they aren't just like, oh, we're gonna sit where we're at and be happy. They're actually expanding and wanting to do more, to where they can basically take a larger market, rather than being that dividing line between Sony and Microsoft. They're actually taking their position seriously, and I don't know about y'all, but I'm also a huge Fable fan. So the last E3, that teaser at the end for a new Fable, where they renewed the license, they have all these new studios that they can put different people from those studios on this task. I think that's going to end up coming out great. The graphics already looked phenomenal, and I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Fable 3. I mean, me and my sister loved to make the pies in the village. And it's one of the few games that like me and my sister actually could play like cooperatively split screen. So really excited to see what Fable ends up bringing to the new generation. But things like Deathloop, which is like a PS5 exclusive as of right now, is made by Bethesda. And Bethesda has contracts in place for some of these exclusive titles where it was supposed to originally launch on the PS5 exclusively or on Xbox exclusively, and they have to honor these contracts. You're now seeing something like Deathloop get a 1-year PS5 exclusivity, and then it's going to be probably released to PC and console, not console, Xbox, And I think that is almost a great way to do it for some games, because if you're a developer of games, you want your game to be able to be played on everything. You want to have as many people as you can play it. But I think at the same time, it's really nice that, Bethesda is able to honor that tradition and that contract. If this is an exclusive for your console, even though we got bought up, we can still put this out, even if it's a timed exclusive. I think Final Fantasy VII was the same way too. Final Fantasy had, I think, a 2-year exclusive deal for the remake, and now it's able to come out on PC and Xbox. Matt, what do you feel about exclusivity as far as consoles go? Do you think Microsoft's going to use this to their advantage, or what?
Well, I think as far as like the next gen wars go, if you look at it that way, I think Xbox's Series X is definitely winning out. Not as far as like putting them in different homes and having the amount of games. Obviously, they're lacking on the game side, and there's no real first exclusive titles. They're more or less just kind of shoring up their library. When it comes to exclusive titles, I think you're going to see the trend become different now. I think in the past you see, Microsoft and Sony were neck and neck going for exclusive rights to certain franchises, and then it would be, as a gamer, you kind of had to make a choice and you had to miss out. I was able to reach out to MLB The Show devs and kind of find out why they put their game on the platform on Xbox, and it was actually Major League Baseball that forced them to put the game on the other platform, because they felt like they were missing out on a more broad audience. And so I think that's kind of the trend that's going to be going forward, is that the exclusive rights are going to kind of be more gray area. And I think that we all win as gamers for sure, with the franchises being more open to different platforms, being able to play games that you wouldn't expect, such as like Horizon Zero Dawn finally coming to the PC. A PlayStation exclusive Days Gone is now coming to the PC later this month, which I'm looking forward to. So I think the exclusive barriers are going to definitely break down eventually, and I think that they're going to realize that the developers and publishers are going to realize that they're going to benefit greatly from being on multiple platforms. And from like the MLB devs, they said specifically, the two consoles, PS5 and Series X, the architecture might be slightly different, but as far as making the game for both platforms, it was pretty much seamless and flawless. So I don't think there's the barriers that there used to be for making the games on different platforms like there used to be years ago. So I think the newer technology is kind of more on par with each other, and it's much easier for them to do that. And I think exclusive barriers are definitely going to break down, and we're going to see more open platform games, and we're not going to see Xbox versus PlayStation. We're just going to see available everywhere. And I think that is something I'm excited about going forward.
Tim, what about you? What do you think on that subject?
I think that he's absolutely right. The gamers are what's going to win on this in the long run. So I know, many years ago when we used cartridges, when we used the different styles of game, everything was coded. Everything was specifically made to run only on certain formats. But for instance, you don't have that issue where it's like Windows versus Apple anymore. Everything's coded through Microsoft. A majority of these engines that we run on are all just going to use the exact same data-driven formats, where you're going to get more content on it. And to do kind of a flashback to one of y'all's older episodes just a couple weeks ago, being able to do different storage methods is just going to make things that much easier and that much more accessible to gamers. And I think that that's great. In terms of digital content, Microsoft already took that step forward by doing the game share, where, you not only got it, but you could make your home Xbox on your friend's console and share all of your game titles so that you two could play together, even though, you're not buying the game for them. Your home Xbox is on their console, which means they have access to your full game library, and as long as you're the one signed in, you can play your games from wherever, as long as it's your profile you're playing on. I know I took advantage of that with my wife. So basically, I didn't want to have to buy 2 copies of a game in order for her to play with me, and it just made it easier for me to put my profile on her Xbox and play with her. Now, since then, I've got kids at home now, so my kids, we game share with them, and it literally gives my son access to play Minecraft with her, and they both have a great time doing it. So I think that it kind of builds that multiplayer aspect where it makes it easier for everybody to get online. Obviously, the online domain helped out the most, and then they're upgrading servers so that they become more and more useful and larger capacities, where you're going to have less. You walk into a zone, there's too many objects, your computer crashes, whatever the case. That's happening less and less because I think the rendering is becoming a lot better, especially as graphics cards goes up, and the way that things are coded are just a little easier to read. So once we get these faster transfer rates, like even those like USB-C has become so popular now, a lot of new phones aren't even coming with the old USB plugs. It's USB-C to USB-C now. So I think that as transfer ability becomes more streamlined, all we're going to end up doing is getting more and more content to gamers, and that's the number one goal. That's what's going to make everyone happy in the long run. As far as like the war between the consoles, once they realize it's all the same playing field and everybody's just trying to get what they want out of it, because some people have giant hands and like an Xbox controller. Other people, like you, Brett, like your little PlayStation controller, and that's fine. But overall, I would say that it really just comes down to personal preference and what you grew up playing is usually what you're going to lean more towards. Certain aspects will change you over from one side to the other, but everyone gains more info and everyone gets better at these games, no matter what you play on. It's just part of growing with the games, is you're getting more and more content with better and better incentives to play.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And one of the things that I actually have a question for you, Tim, here is like with the Xbox Play Anywhere, you seem to be very positive about Xbox acquiring all of these titles. Do you think eventually like the Game Pass is going to become something that's more valuable? Do you think Xbox Play Anywhere is going to become something they focus on? Or do you think they're not even going to focus on Xbox and just put money into titles? Where do you think Microsoft's next step is?
So I'll tell you from my experience, the Play Everywhere, which was what kind of made the Google Stadia boom, which was like all your games accessible anywhere. It's a cool concept, but in terms of controls, until they come up with some kind of link where you can think something and have it happen, uh, game controls on a phone are nowhere near what they're going to be on a console, and game controls on a console are nowhere near what PCs can do. Just because you grab a mouse, you've got an adjustable DPI setting, you can adjust that. Whereas control sticks, it's literally going to go at the same speed. And yeah, you have those games that have like an ADS difference where when you're scoped, you move a little slower or a little faster depending on what you're trying to do. But that you're still going to run into basically control limitations. It's how much you can control these things. So I think the Play Anywhere is something that's good, although Game Pass has already proven to improve. I mean, EA being included, I believe it was Hulu that was also included in it for a short while, where they basically, if you signed up for it, they gave you the month free along with it. So they were just adding more and more content to that, and with all of these acquisitions for different studios, you're just getting that much more content, and it's all at the same cost. When you look at things like subscription fees, even when everything else was rising, they've pretty much held pretty steady at the same kind of cost. I mean, they've gone up a little bit, but for the amount of content that they've added to it, I would say it's more than well worth it. When you compare it to like Amazon Prime a while back, you could pay $100 for a year, and now it's $13 every month. So I mean, they've increased their price, and then they also have 2-day shipping that went away because of COVID, and it's like. I've lost content but increased costs. I don't understand. Compared to Xbox, where it's like, oh, well, not only for your $19.99 do you get all these games on your Xbox, we're also going to give you a big stack of games for your PC to play as well. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, here's EA. Oh, that's not enough either. Here, let us give you free movies and content and seasons of shows. All that'll be included as well. Oh, that's not enough. And they just keep piling more and more onto it. And it gets to a point where it's like, okay, I have more content than I know what to do with. I know we all have backlogs that are hundreds of games deep at this point, to where eventually you want to go back. It's like, when I retire, I'm gonna sit around and game for a month and be caught up on maybe half of them. But that's kind of the differential is they give you a reason why they're going to increase a cost. For the Xbox Game Pass versus just the Xbox Online play for kids. And it kind of gives you those different levels where it's like, oh, I'm me as a family guy. I buy the Family Pass for the Ultimate, and I'm getting not only my setup, but my wife's, and I have kids control where I can set age limits and parameters and do all of that with their online capabilities. I can do all the exact same things by paying a little bit less and getting the family pack instead of buying each one of us individually our own. And I think game sharing also helped out with that. For whenever my kids want to play something, I can put them on any of the consoles that have my profile as the home, and congratulations, they can play all day long. It doesn't matter. For my wife, who really was not a PC gamer at all in the slightest, she has become definitively more PC based now than she ever was before, because she has a full game library to play through. Like, not only the free games, free access and early access on Steam, but as soon as I showed her like the Xbox Game Pass was accessible on PC, she dove in and was like, yeah, I definitely want to do this, this, and this, and oh, this game looks cool, and it got her to game on a platform that I never thought she would touch. And that just made it a lot more fun to really make it a broader aspect to play with some of my friends that she hasn't ever gamed with, because she never wanted to touch PC, and that gave her a reason to try it. As far as what they're coming to in the future, I can't speak for it, but my opinion would be that if they're going to focus on one thing, focus on creating games that are innovative and new. You've bought tons of good talent. There are lots of good writers in there where you have your developers that can create different aspects they use the engine in different ways. Some of them are super realistic, and some of them are super like cartoony and kiddie, and I think that you can go both routes at the same time. and develop games, because they all have their own genre and they all have their own place where people enjoy them for different aspects. So let those studios do what they do best. You got your Wolfenstein for machine games. Let them come out with a super gory bloodfest kind of game. That's what they do best, and that's what draws people to them. Evil Within is kind of that psychological thriller. Let them kind of take that and make a game that's really based in that. So let each developer do what they specialize in. And if you want to create something innovative and new, pull different members of those teams that are coming up with these great ideas and find a new way to kind of create your own genre, if you would. I think that would revolutionize it.
No, I agree with that entirely. I think there's something that to be said with companies specialize in one thing or the other, and then you get something like Cyberpunk, where they specialized in third-person action RPGs, go to a first-person shooter, and it didn't quite sell as well as they anticipated because it wasn't something they ever dived into before. Matt, when it comes to these companies being acquired, do you see a downside to Microsoft rapidly acquiring majority of these bigger AAA title franchises like id Software and stuff like that? Do you think acquiring too many assets too quickly could be a downside?
I definitely think so, and I think the main reason for that is originally their landscape, the decision to buy studios, I think came at the forefront of releasing their console early. Maybe it was good, maybe it was bad. But then acquiring these studios in order to compensate for the lack of actual games on their Game Pass, their systems, the content. I think that's part of why, like Tim said with the Game Pass, the longevity that it's created now, it's opened up a whole new ballgame. That you look at the acquisition of the Ubisoft Connect world, where they're bringing that to Xbox Game Pass now. And that basically, it makes EA Pass irrelevant. It makes the Ubisoft Connect irrelevant now. And it brings a lot more games to their library over, on top of the 100+ games that they have. One thing I think that they're really striving for is to knock out PlayStation Now. And the funny thing about that, we just talked about that last episode, but PlayStation Now is definitely moving backwards as far as no next-gen capability and compatibility. So all the PlayStation Now titles are only upgraded to the PlayStation 4 level. And I think Microsoft kind of picked up on that and is definitely hitting them in the face to punch them directly. I mean, they're acquiring studios, they're adding multiple games to the Game Pass. They're making 12 or 13 games per year exclusive day one launch on the Game Pass. They're rebranding their network to Xbox Network now, and they're all rolling it in together. For $15 a month, you cannot beat a membership online, an entire library of games at your disposal, and two or three or four free games every month on top of that. You just can't beat that. And I think that their acquisitions to help supplement the Game Pass, help supplement the library, is kind of stoking the fire for Xbox fans. And just casual gamers like myself who just sit in the middle and just enjoy both sides and enjoy whatever game comes my way, I think that I'm looking at it from a perspective of, wow, what really is coming next. I don't know if they're truly planning on making new and provocative games, or if they're just kind of shoring up their library and padding out their stats, so to speak. So, they're filling out the library full. They're making all these past titles and all these other exclusive titles come to their console and just be successful. And I think at the end of the day, it's a fantastic thing, but I think it also is narrowing the playing field. And I think, you look at id Software, what do they make? A game every 15 years, it feels like. Exactly. And, it feels like it's kind of narrowing the scope. I don't know. It seems like they have enough money to put it wherever and to make it work. Maybe secretly, like they had a secret backdoor deal with GameStop that became public, where they tried to breathe some life into the now hopefully soon dead GameStop. And they just kind of pulled out. And now you're looking at all these studios. I don't know if they're going to merge. They're going to just pump money into them. I would hope so, because one thing I would really like to see is Bethesda, ZeniMax get back to glory. And I would like to see franchises like Fallout, Elder Scrolls really just step it up a notch and get back to just huge open world games with a lot to do and quality and polish. I think that we've been missing for a few years now. And don't get me wrong, Skyrim's great. I love Fallout, love the franchises, but they definitely could be pushed further, and they definitely have had the time in the oven. And I mean, if you look at the development time, it's crazy that they just sit and sit and sit and then finally release. But I think, back to your question, what really hurts is that they sit in the oven sometimes too long. And by the time Microsoft actually puts out a quality grade A first party product, it's kind of behind the times. It's kind of behind in graphics. It's behind in gameplay innovation. And it just kind of copy and paste some of the content that's already out there and that's provocative and that's been done better in other areas. And I think Microsoft, going back decades, has kind of been that way. They put so much time and effort into projects. They cancel them, they bring them back, they cancel them, they switch back and forth, with Bungie and Destiny and all that stuff, and Halo and all these franchises shifting studios and going back and forth. I just think that they're putting too much time in the oven on it instead of just having a clear direction, a clear focus. I think maybe it might be one of those instances where there's just too many cooks in that Microsoft kitchen, and now there's too many collabs and too many things going on. They just really need to compartmentalize and focus on their projects and definitely put up top quality stuff. And I guarantee you, if they do, they will dethrone Sony as the king of consoles. And for sure, right now in sales, they're knocking it out of the park with the Series X. The Game Pass library, you can't get that on PlayStation. If you bought all the PlayStation games in the library, you still can't get that kind of quality. And so if they just stay strong, focus, stay narrow, but stay true. Don't take away from other projects. Just stay true and just stay strong, and they'll win for sure. And this is coming from a lifetime Sony fanboy here, who's definitely waving that Sony flag. And now it's a half mast, man. It's back and forth. It's anything's up for grabs, and I really hope that Sony learns and looks at Microsoft's success now and adopts a better PlayStation Game Pass for sure. I really hope that's in the works.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that some people forget about is that Xbox, especially with Microsoft releasing the Xbox and the Xbox 360, the ones, and now their Series X, this is really, they're the newest person to enter the console space. You've had Nintendo been around forever, and Nintendo's kind of stayed quiet in this situation. And I think when you compare Sony to Xbox, no one ever really talks about Nintendo because it's kind of not, they're not fighting for that market share, where Sony and Xbox are really, or the PlayStation and Xbox are really trying to fight for that mass, like, general public gamer, where Nintendo is very specific on it, and they have their demographic already established, and it's a lifetime demographic. I think what you're seeing with Xbox now is they're acquiring many titles, being the younger, company as far as like in console experience, but they're, as far as a company, they're huge. I mean, just their artificial intelligence technology that they have and they've been investing into in the recent years has been ridiculous. Their ability to do super high definition scans of the world and stuff like that, and textures for their gaming environments. I think it makes a lot of sense that Microsoft has assets that people in 3D modeling, like for levels in video games, would really appreciate. If you have Microsoft's library of like scanned rock textures and stuff like that for the Unreal Engine, I mean, that right there is something that Sony can't offer developers. So I think even though Microsoft's buying up so many places, I think if you're a developer, you're almost hoping that you're going to be able to access Microsoft's pool of information and the network within those other communities to get just this almost like holy, I was going to say holy hand grenade of Antioch, but you know what I mean. You're going to get this like holy grail of content that you can't get if you were to be bought up by Sony or by yourself as a developer, that you would have to then drop a bunch of money into. The thing that I see also compared to it is when when Disney started acquiring a lot of stuff in recent years. You you rewind like 10 years ago when they were starting to buy out things like Star Wars, and the memes were going around with Mickey Mouse is going to be in the new Star Wars movie. If Mickey Mouse was in the most recent Rise of Skywalker movie, it would have been better. And I'm a pretty avid Star Wars fan. I mean, I got a baby Yoda. He's still baby Yoda in my eyes. He's not no stupid Grogu. But that was something where I was kind of like, ooh, but then I'm like, oh, the budget comes in, you know? Matt, what do you think about that as far as Microsoft compared to Sony? Why is it different? Why should people be excited?
So if you mean Microsoft compared to like what Disney did,
Oh, Disney, my bad.
no, it's okay. I figured that's where you're going with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely going to be different. So you're looking at Disney acquiring ESPN and all these other companies and acquiring the rights to like Marvel and all this stuff, and it's just like, you know, I think their stance was more of their industry is just their industry. So if you look at Microsoft, they're one platform on in an industry where there's multiple platforms where you've got, you know, if you look at like a racetrack, you've got the Xbox, the giant SUV that's horsepower up the wazoo. You got the PlayStations, the Ferrari, and you got, you know, Nintendo pulling up in the little Peugeot. And you're like, you know, me, and it's man, the Nintendo, there's a reason why they win the race time and time again, is because they stay the course. They know their game plan. They keep their resources where they're at. They keep their ideas, sometimes recycled, but mostly fresh ideas. They bake them just the right amount of time. They build hype like nobody else does, and they leave you wanting more, salivating at the new innovation and the new games coming out. And they get this, they know their market really well. They don't have to compete with anybody else for that kind of child genre market of games and the platform. They don't have to compete. You look at Disney acquiring all these other studios and all these other companies. They don't really have to compete. I mean, they've had the money since the beginning of time with the Disney family and the name. And so I think they just put their resources out there more to be more of like a presence as far as media goes and publishing. And I think Microsoft is definitely trying to change the game in its own platform and its own genre of, you know, companies. I think it's trying to really innovate video gaming like they have in technology. I mean, if you look at Microsoft Flight Simulator alone, you can see they have the resources, the budget, the power to put something out that's fantastic. It's incredible that they can do that you can actually simulate real flights and fly around the world and do things like that. And I think the difference is just being that they're one's buying media outlets left and right and acquiring big time publishers in the movie industry and in social media and media in general and sports, and you have one that's just trying to fine tune its own platform of gaming and definitely, I guess, maybe put a leg up to win the console wars, the console race. And I think, though, that one thing that goes under the radar that should be noted is that Microsoft actually lends properties to Sony to get started, to get creative, to get innovative. They lend properties to GameStop to help keep them afloat. I think Microsoft's really kind of changed my opinion over the past 10, 15 years of what they've really been able to accomplish. And it's kind of like they're the big brother with their arm out saying, hey, let's not make it about me versus you. Let's make it about us winning. And I think Microsoft, with all of its technology, with Windows and whether you love or hate it or everything that they've created, they're really trying to just bring the gaming platform up a notch, not just win the war, but just, you know, show off that it's 2021 and going into the future. Gaming is something that everyone's doing, that all past generations are learning how to do, and current generations are loving it, and future generations will learn to love it to count for years down the road. And so I think they're just the difference is just being that they're trying to secure the longevity and future of gaming, where Disney's sometimes feels like it's in their pocket that they're worried about, but I think they're trying to also, in the similarity as well, control the future and kind of help propel certain properties into the future. And the funniest thing is like being aligned with ESPN. I mean, I haven't watched ESPN in like 15 years, to be honest, and I kind of feel bad. But it's just, I don't go to them for sports anymore, and I don't know what that does, what Disney has done for them that's made it better, because I just lost interest in it completely. So it's kind of funny, but in contrast, I think Microsoft's just trying to elevate gaming, and Disney's just trying to make more money, and acquire more properties. And I don't know if that, in the movie industry side of it, which I'm a big fan of, I don't know that that's helped them or helped their properties that they've put their name on.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. Like, it doesn't necessarily help Microsoft to buy some random company in the like. It doesn't help them to buy like Astro headsets or something like that, and they haven't done that. But what they have tried to do is acquire Discord. Now Microsoft has Skype already. They acquired Skype a while back, and as we all know, Skype is no longer really used. I mean, now you've got things like Zoom, and I think really Zoom's competitor is Discord. Tim, what is your stance on Microsoft trying to acquire Discord? That's the most recent thing they're talking about.
So I think that they had several debacles, and as y'all know, I'm a huge Destiny fan guy, and for whatever reason, they had a third-party application that they ended up having to go to a straight lawsuits with, and actually basically put out, hey, you were not allowed to do this, because what it did was it gave people access to put in a person's gamer tag, and they could pull IP addresses from it. So they had to shut that down through legal lawsuit, and it was happening frequently through Xbox parties. So their party system on Xbox has been very spotty at best, and obviously, like, game chat has always been atrocious. Nobody likes game chat. If you don't believe me, go play Warzone, finish a match, and don't have yourself in a party listen to that. You'll want to just take your headset off at that point. But I think that's the experience that a lot of people have had, and they're looking for something new and innovative. So I know several clans, businesses. There are tons of even major corporations out there that use Discord as a means of communication. Obviously, it's not Microsoft Office or something, but it is a good way between like company to company, giving yourself a secure avenue to video stream, to do interviews with. It's good quality. Their servers are upgradable, which a lot of people like, because you can actually boost your server to get it higher in quality of resolution for gaming, and higher quality resolution for audio content, and it just gives you more features to it. And I know several of my friends who do a lot of streaming. They do that not only with the Discord and their Twitch streams, but Discord also has the ability to custom make emotes, and a lot of businesses are putting their corporate symbols in there and things like that, so you can use it for different aspects. And I think Microsoft, if they were to buy Discord, at least as it is right now, is phenomenal. The quality, the accessibility, the way that the servers can be open invitationed, and you can have your separate groups and the different tier levels for it. Your level 100 boss, level 50 boss, so you've got your different statuses that you can put, like everyone from CEO down to just basic management, down to just regular employees, and give them access. And I've actually worked with several companies that did use it for those exact reasons. And I think a big part of that comes to what their goal is in the future. And I think what Matt was talking about earlier, Xbox and Sony both kind of have fought to take the majority share of adult gaming, but they just kind of let go of kids gaming. Why? Because that's Nintendo. Like, that's literally, they don't have to fight with adult gaming. That's not their goal. They're just going to take 100% of kids. That's all they take. And that's essentially what happened. Nintendo doesn't have to try and reinvent the wheel. They have their market share. They know what it is. All they have to do is continue to produce A1 games for kids, and that's it. Whereas Xbox and Sony, Sony back in the day was all about RPGs, all about solo gaming experience, where Xbox was always kind of viewed as, oh, that's the online where your friends play. They had big footprints in sports and in first person shooting and stuff like that. Sony had a lot of those first person shooters as well. But when you compare the two, I would say that Sony was pretty much known for RPGs, and Xbox was pretty much known for online gaming. Why? Because back when Sony didn't charge for their online experience, everybody's like, "Oh, well, you don't have to pay for it." Yeah, you don't have to pay for it because it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody enjoyed that during that time period because you would get disconnected from parties, you'd lose server connection with almost every game you played, and it was not a fun experience. Xbox, even though they charged, made it a valued experience during those time periods and gave you a reason why to spend that extra money in order to get a more stable connection. And I think that they can improve on something that was not secure with the Xbox parties dealing with issues of IP addresses being taken, DDoSing, where people are getting kicked off the games, frying their routers, sending packets over the internet constantly. And I know that that's been an issue for more than one community, but Destiny is a big community that got hit by that. And using something like Discord, where you can't even get in without an invitation or somebody giving you access to join in, and even if you join in, you can set parameters like you have to agree to the rules, and then if you violate those rules that you agreed to, they can kick you out and ban you. And I think that makes sense for kind of giving you tiers in that community, and I think it helps build communities.
Yeah, I think one thing that I really like about Discord is that you can have it on your phone, you can have it on your tablet, you can have it on so many different platforms. And me and Matt experienced this recently with PlayStation. PlayStation, you can have an app on your phone where you can talk to somebody and plug in some headphones into your phone or something, and then talk to someone on their PlayStation. Xbox took it a step further, gave you the ability to do it on PC, do it on a phone, and then also do it on your Xbox. The issue is Discord almost, if they acquire it, it almost is going to have to replace Microsoft's own chat service. What I would really hate is if they took Discord and just kind of blew it up, if they just spontaneously put Microsoft Discord, like if they Mixered it, if you saw how Mixer turned out trying to compete with Twitch, but in this situation, it'd be like if they bought Twitch and then called it Mixer. That's my big fear, is that they're going to take Discord, which is a 10 out of 10 program, and they're just going to ruin it. And that would be my big concern. And it is, I think Discord not biting at the first offer is really good, because I think Discord understands their ability to be separate of both consoles, because ideally, I brought this up in a previous episode. I'd say I would prefer to have Discord on every console. That'd just be super convenient to have a universal chat service. And if Microsoft is going to take that and offer that, but only on the Xbox network, that's the issue we're running into right now. Is you can talk to your friends on whatever on Xbox, but on PlayStation you can't. Discord was that universal workaround, and that's something that I think I'm concerned with. But I'm also kind of excited because I'd like to see Discord get more funding. It's a great service. We use it here on the podcast. We love it, except for when Sony's hacking Matt last week. If you guys haven't seen that already, Matt got DDoS. They put in his little gamer tag and found him. Funny story. I actually know somebody. I can't disclose it because they're a teacher, and I'm pretty sure they want to stay anonymous. They had a parent call the school, and what happened was that these kids were supposed to work on a project together. It's 3 kids, and 2 of the kids were talking, and they're like, "Hey, where's the third person?" And the other one's like, "Oh, he's on Xbox right now playing Fortnite." And the other one's like, "What's his gamer tag?" And he says the gamer tag, and the guy goes on to a website online and DDoSes the guy off of Fortnite. And the kid got off of Fortnite because he's like, "Oh, I can't play Fortnite anymore." And he comes and does the project with him. But the parent of the kid who got DDoS was calling the school super upset, like this kid turned off this kid's internet, yada yada. And this teacher had to deal with that. And he's telling me the story about it, and I'm like, almost perfect timing to have that story come up, and you're talking about people getting DDoSed. And I told him the same thing. I'm like, that's why they got to get rid of Skype. But I think with that being said, I think it's time to transition over to this week's Save Point.
Save Point.
So to start things off, the reason we're doing this in front of a live studio audience this week is because Matt's computer blew up, and we had to postpone the episode. We were supposed to release it Friday. We're currently recording this on Saturday, so we'll be uploading this on Monday, Sunday night. I don't know. It depends on whatever I can get around to editing it. But this week, it's been crazy because Matt's been trying all week to get it fixed. Matt, the CIA, I know, working for him. They got to do a lot of stuff to your computer, but what happened?
So, when you work for the 3-letter company, the Alphabet Boys, you're not supposed to disclose that. But now that you outed me, full disclosure, yeah, it's been a nightmare. So not having the ability to use my gaming PC for anything, and it's been sitting here. I've been sad, depressed, frustrated. The biggest reason is, thankfully, Tim, appreciate you for coming over and helping me troubleshoot. Biggest thing is the graphics card shortage right now is really frustrating, and so we determined after a bunch of trials and errors and running through everything that it's the graphics card that took a crap. And unfortunately, I haven't even had it a full year. So the problem is Micro Center, where we are, is about 60 miles from me, and bottlenecking through that traffic is not worth it. However, they don't have any more 2060 RTXs, so I may have to look at a situation where I may have to return it and hopefully get something different, hopefully get something better. I don't know. But it's been very frustrating to not have my PC to be able to use it. But thankfully, to the magical powers of Mr. Tim, I'm using a laptop, got all my stuff hooked up, trying to do my best here for the podcast. And also appreciate you, Brett, editing this week as well. It makes my life a lot easier with everything going on at work and at home and here in the no PC. And I really appreciate you guys. This is truly just a digital, what it's all about: brotherhood, coming together, being there for each other, and picking up where someone else is falling off, and just being there for each other. And I really appreciate you both for helping me get through this craziness.
Yeah, no problem. I can see a couple people crying in the audience, wiping their little eyes. We appreciate all you people.
Here you go.
Yeah,
dry your tears.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is like the worst time for a computer to go out, especially a graphics card at this day and age. If it was a CPU or like RAM or something like that, it's fine, but a graphics card in particular. So if anybody knows or is willing to sell their graphics card, you can always reach out to us on our social media and just tag Matt and say, hey, I got a graphics card for you. Otherwise, we have to do this again. I said we could call him on the phone, but I don't know how well that would have turned out. So I appreciate Tim for being there and being able to support him. And we appreciate your guys' patience in the Just a Digital fan base for understanding that, we are not by any means professionals, even though we come off as it, But the thing that I also want to discuss is I got a book. Me, Brett, getting a book. Like, I got Dr. Disrespect's Violent Speed Momentum. Do you have yours too?
Man, not at the desk. You pulled it out at the last second before we started recording, and I'm like, no, mine's across the apartment. But yeah, I'll let you show it off.
Yeah, so got a signed copy of Violent Speed Momentum by Dr. Disrespect. I'm going to be a little honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. We're all about honesty here at This Digital. It's a sticker that he signed, and they slapped it inside the book. I'm a little disappointed. But not as disappointed as I am when I turn to, page 55, and I just see, like a page and a half. Yeah, here it is. Look at that. Page 28. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe that this is actually a book. And I am going to read it, and I'm going to leave an actual review of it. But so far, my initial impressions has nothing to do with violent speed or momentum. But it is weird. It's a weird acquire. So I don't know. I'll let you guys know if you guys should check it out. I think it was worth it just for the autograph. But like I said, I was a little heartbroken by it.
I'll totally take the credit for that, because it is my influence that made you purchase that. I'm like, oh, I gotta get this book, and you're like, oh yeah, we gotta get this book, and then so
you know me, I'm an impulse buyer. You know that. Matt said he's getting Dr. Disrespect's book, and I'm like, he can't be the only one. I gotta show it off, guys. I gotta show it off back there. If Shroud releases a book, I'll buy Shroud's book. Summit 1G buys a book, I'll buy 2 copies, because I love Summit 1G. Um, but yeah, is there anything else new with you, Matt, besides your PC blowing up? What about you, Tim?
I was just happy to help him figure out everything because I mean we're both pretty tech savvy, and it took us literally a good solid few hours
Oh, wow.
of wiping the BIOS, going through every single part of the PC to find out what exactly was going on. And then, between all of the test runs for is it the motherboard, is it the processor, eliminating every possibility, and then finally we were like, okay, so we can basically narrow it down to it's either the motherboard or it's the graphics card. And I said, well, let's knock out graphics card as an option. And we actually took his graphics card and put it in my PC at my house. And I didn't get any graphical data from it on my PC. And I was like, that seems to be the issue because my PC should run it flawlessly, and it didn't. So well, at least we were able to figure out what the actual issue was, so we diagnosed it officially 100% correct, and now it's just a matter of him being able to one day, in the mythical land of unicorns, find that 2060.
Yeah, does it need to be 2060? Because I've got. Oh, thank you. Someone in the crowd just handed me a 960 that they'd be willing to send Matt. One of the old women out in the crowd today. Thank you so much. Mabel was your name? Thank you so much, Mabel.
She's probably pulled it out of her bra.
Where's the security on that? I thought we weren't allowed to have metal objects come into the studio. What was that? We'll have to talk to our security. Especially, we'll have to also talk to the writers after this. But yeah, well, I don't know. We might be able to make this work thanks to the Just Digital crowd. Maybe we'll be able to make it work. I just thought of that now. as I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait a second. I think someone's got to. Are they just happy to see me, or is that a graphics card? But moving on.
That's great.
What are the positives of Microsoft buying up all of these? What do we want to see in the future, And we kind of discussed it earlier in the podcast, but formally, I think what I would like to see happen is you guys hinted to Game Pass being more valuable and being more enticing for people to buy. I would like to see that. I would like to see a service that I buy and I get a library of games. But my one fear with Game Pass, personally, right now, is that you don't really own the games. Let's compare it to another service like Humble Bundle, where you pay, $20 a month and you get, 12 games a month, And depending on the game, it's a really good deal certain months because you get like Tomb Raider or you get like Call of Duty, and those are like $60 games that you're getting like in that bundle along with 11 other games. The difference between that and a Game Pass is that once you stop paying for Game Pass, you don't get those games. You don't get to keep them, which is why I like Humble Bundle, and they're also a partner to Dista Digital. See that little thing there. But no, I'm thinking like Game Pass it's hard to pass up, especially if you're paying for Xbox Network Live, whatever you want to call it. It's almost stupid to not just get the games. I mean, like Nier Automata was included with their Game of the Year edition on Game Pass, and it's better than the PC release. And I own it on PC and I own it on PS4. And the fact that Game Pass is like the definitive way to play the game, it's like, why would a pay for service version of the game be better than the physical or digital copy of the game on superior consoles? Because it was designed for PlayStation, What's your take on that, Matt?
I think the Game Pass is going to be at the forefront of pretty much, the future. I think they're going to carve the path. I think it's it's a new frontier thing. They're setting the table, showing everyone how it's done. I think honestly, it's going to open up the doors for other companies to kind of adopt better policies or maybe make something new. Nintendo definitely stepped up and has their free games, which is on the Nintendo Online, which is fantastic. You get to play all those classic titles. I really would like to see Nintendo do the same thing and step it up and include some of their current titles as well. Maybe some older games that are more modern that we have had to purchase again and again, and maybe make those free. I think what I'd like to see with all these Microsoft acquisitions is definitely a new franchise to come out of this and to be the new standard of video games. And you look at Naughty Dog, you look at it's escaping me. The Horizon Zero Dawn, Guerrilla Games. You're looking at these stellar Sony side developers who just put out this quality work, and all of a sudden you've got Microsoft, who's had, you know, Gears of War franchise and Halo, and they've had some successful ones, but I think Sony definitely has had more successful first party titles. So I would really like to see, ideally, a balance of going, if they're going to go first party and they're going to stay within their own side and not help out Sony and stay, you know, prioritize like Fallout or Elder Scrolls, and that's going to be Xbox only. I really want to see the quality improve. I want to see the time in the oven decrease, and I want to see better output of games. I would really like to see a company, a developer on the side of Microsoft that would have the capabilities like Naughty Dog has done, and their work that they've done, and maybe make a new franchise that really sticks with all gamers, not just the teenage crowd or the younger generation, and then making us feel old for enjoying the original Uncharted and how long ago that was, and just having a new face, a new, I guess you could say, we talked about this in a prior episode about mascots. Having a new mascot take the mantle and be just an epic franchise of games going forward, and then, you know, bring them to all platforms at the end of it and just make it accessible to everyone. I really would, honestly, in a perfect world, I would like to see a really top-notch quality Elder Scrolls game. I really want the next one to just be fantastic. It doesn't have to be the best game they've ever made, but definitely step the quality up a notch and really just fine-tune your animations, fine-tune your graphics, fine-tune and lock in your frame rate, and just make an overall better quality experience. And maybe scale it down, maybe scale Skyrim down and scale that world down a little bit, and just make a better polished title. And games like Fallout, take it in a new direction. You know, if you want to stay in the post-apocalyptic world, fine-tune that, clean that up, unbug that game franchise, and just make a glorious game, and then just go forward from there. I really just want to see what they're capable of. If you look at Wolfenstein, I mean, that resurrected and came out of left field, and those more recent Wolfensteins are fantastic shooters. New ideas, new weapon ideas, and new tactical first-person shooter gameplay ideas. You know, the levels are linear, but they're open, and there's multiple lanes and platforms and levels that you can take to get to your destination. Things like that. Just, you know, bringing back old franchises, making them better, but then just putting some resources and some money into the next biggest, greatest franchise, and just elevate that platform from there. And I think that would in turn force Sony to step up their first party rights and step up their game as well. And, you know, the one thing that concerns me is that if Microsoft does that, will Sony elevate? Because if you look at what just happened, there's rumors that were confirmed that they're remastering or remaking The Last of Us again. And that, to me, doesn't make any sense. So hopefully, you know, it seems like Sony's got this, they're on this remaster kick, and they're doing this again and again. And you got Microsoft finally remastering the Mass Effect franchise and breathing some life into that. Hopefully that in a perfect world too. I would love to see, you know, them acquire BioWare and just knock them through a loop and get that ship straightened out. It's kind of like the Suez Canal. I feel like that's where BioWare is. BioWare is the meme now, that the cargo ship is stuck. Just acquire them and straighten that ship out and get it out of port, get it out of there.
Yeah.
Clean it up. But,
yeah, we should do a whole podcast on BioWare, because there's a lot I could talk about BioWare.
Oh yeah, for days.
Tim, I got a question for you. If there's anything, Microsoft has been doing a great job of acquiring companies that have kind of been neutral grounded companies, like they're AAA developers, but they, you know, make it for both systems or for PC as well. If Microsoft was to acquire any Sony specific company who really makes Sony exclusives mostly, what would be the kill shot for Sony at that point?
Um, that's a really hard question. I would say that if you are looking for the next game developer that they could acquire and make truck tons of money with, it's honestly not even a Sony exclusive, but I would say that if they could buy out like Rockstar Games, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
know the fan following that those games have, and it is absolutely insane. If they took even a part of that and made it into a Microsoft exclusive, that could take that mascot point. Um, I know Grand Theft Auto, obviously. There's Red Dead Redemption. There's so many good like grade one titles that everyone loves on there. Um, and obviously they aren't really child appropriate.
Mhm.
But honestly, I think that they could possibly come out with some of the studios that they have acquired, like Rare. Rare made Banjo Kazooie. I would love to see a digital remaster or a recreation of that. I would love to see them actually utilize some of the old kind of classic games and bring those back to life.
Mhm.
Mass Effect had a huge cult following for a long time. I get it. Some people did not like the ending of 3, and Andromeda was. Yeah, let's just not talk about those.
Yeah.
But 1 and 2 dragged so many people through a game where they were like, oh, this is just not going to be that good. And it turned out to blow them away. It was just like, wow, this is actually what's possible nowadays.
Hmm.
And I think that they can use a lot of these studios that had the best points and have so much data behind them for what made them popular and what made them a really like branded choice for video gaming. I think that if they took all of that data, they could come out with a new series or like something from the ground up that was revolutionary. And I say that strictly as a gamer, as someone that wants to see something new and innovative, and I don't want to see a recopy of an older game. Don't get me wrong, you can do some copies or some sequels that for specific games that could make a killing, but something new and innovative with all of these different developers, publishers that have so much input and insight into marketing and the media and just what gamers really all that feedback that they get to improve their own games. Take all of those different feedbacks for different styles of games and find out what that one thing is that drives them. And honestly, this is gonna sound a little weird. I don't know how much y'all played the game Spore,
I do
but
remember
that
that actually.
ability,
Yeah.
the ability of that game to go through like the replay value, everyone loved from about the cell stage until the tribe stage was phenomenal. When you went to space, everybody just kind of stopped. But when when you were starting out, those were truly spectacular moments where every person could play the game in a different way and no one was wrong. No one made a bad decision of it. It was this is what truly innovative and creativity driven type things. I don't know if you ever played Spark when the Xbox first came out, and they had like you could go through and make quote lines and kind of build your own RPG with it. It took a lot of time, and a lot of them were like generalized stock kind of images and stuff. But you could make all kinds of games with that, and I think that freedom to gamers is something that's really nice and really innovative and fun. And I think that's where everyone gets so hung up on, oh, it has to be open world for them to have more choice. Matt said this before, and I kind of agree. When you have something that is purely open world, it's overwhelming almost.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, what do I do next? You're going to have those people where if it's a static world, they're going to go to that one spot with the best weapon to get the best weapon and beat the game instantaneously, or they're going to try and speed run it, or they're going to try and be 100% completionist, and they're going to spend the next 10,000 hours trying to beat your game 100%.
Yeah.
And there's different play styles for different people, but I would like to see something new and pretty much open sourced.
Mhm.
Something that lets the creation I know survival games have been getting more and more popular, especially with the battle arenas and things like that, kind of taking not necessarily a step back, but a lot of the crowd that was watching those are starting to find other games that they like. Like I know here on Vista Digital, we were playing Hunt Survival Showdown for a while, and I know Hunt Showdown was a great game, but it's something that's been out for a while. I want to see something that's new and has good controls and graphics are actually at the level that Microsoft can produce. So they have a lot of good publishers and developers, and I want to see them sink money into these to see what they can actually come up with. That when they aren't on timeline crunch, it has to be done at this time. I want to see what they can actually perform when they're not crammed down on trying to make it, because I think Microsoft has the funds to do that.
Matt, you recently, in a couple episodes back, were talking about getting a Quest. You got an Oculus Quest VR. Microsoft has Windows Mixed Reality integrated into not only its Xbox for certain titles, but also on PC as well, so you can play, VR games. And Microsoft also has augmented reality that's been working on as well. But as far as the focus on VR, you yourself having one, not being able to play it right now because you don't have a computer, where would you like to see Microsoft utilize that more? Because that is something that Sony really hasn't ventured off into with the PlayStation VR. You only got a couple of limited titles for it. It's not something you're seeing too much that they push. Microsoft's got a great technological advantage here. What would you like to see them do with it?
I would like to honestly see them take it in a better direction as far as staying away from the major AAA title games and making that I think what I'm getting at is the PlayStation failed at this, and this Microsoft hopefully stays away from it. PlayStation decided to attach their VR properties to every single freaking game out there. And it's kind of like they coined it out there as, oh, well, this is VR. But they slapped it on almost every game that was totally unnecessary. Everybody's golf. Nobody cares about golfing in VR with 3 golf courses and like 2 characters. Nobody cares. Gran Turismo VR, Tomb Raider VR. And these are things that people just don't care about, and it's instead of making new properties, they just worked so hard to get this tech. It's almost like the thing of the past. I mean, where did the Fallout VR go? Where did all these big things go? They came out with Skyrim VR, which had worse graphics than the PlayStation 3 and had really poor capabilities on the PlayStation VR. Xbox, what I really would like to see, and Microsoft, is take VR in new directions, continue their experiences, and build off of their platform. Aircar specifically was the first VR game that I tried, which was phenomenal, and it was on the PC and it was linked to the Oculus. That partnership I love because it takes the power of the Oculus and it takes the power of your PC, combines them, and it's an unbeatable VR experience. And to be able to have you remotely go in and help me change my settings on the fly and fix my situation was fantastic. I would like to see more things like that become adoptable across all platforms, and see Microsoft, maybe they make an actual VR only game that they then take as a top-notch game that everybody just decides to start buying the VRs for. And I think the graphics capabilities, the engines that they have at the base foundation, I would love to see new directions. Now, if you think about Microsoft Flight Simulator, think about what that would be like to put that on a VR headset and play with that and be able to experience that, or have something like where you can go on location to a live zoo. You can't go there with your family, pandemic, something's closed, whatever. Have these new world experiences where you can put this experience on and experience it and just live it. It's kind of like that haptic thing that you can put on your chest now. I think I've seen commercials where they can wear this like belt vest, and it like you feel everything around you in the environment in the video game. I think that would be cool. I think Microsoft could partner with that and even knock something like that out of the park even higher. But VR, definitely for Microsoft, stay away from the big party titles and just focus on your own thing and stay in your lane and just focus on a great VR title. And I can tell you, PlayStation VR versus Oculus and Microsoft doesn't even come close. They're very limited. It's a very limited scope, focus graphically, and potential is very low. The Microsoft and Oculus, the ceiling is the sky. It's the limit, and there's so much potential there. And I think Sony's issue, they should just kill it off and just be done with it. Because I know we all heard they're bringing the new VR to the new platform, and I think that's a big mistake.
Exactly, and the reason I bring that up is because we're looking at all these things that Microsoft's acquiring, but Microsoft's augmented reality and mixed Windows reality has been around forever, and I feel like the phase of VR was really popular like 2013 to like 15. Like there was like a really big phase of 2 years where it was at the bleeding edge and everyone was super excited about it. And you still see VR elevating and being better than it was in the past. Like Boneworks coming out, fantastic game. And I'm really hoping to see something in the future, especially when you have a good of a company is like Bethesda. You said that they released Skyrim VR. Now you have Microsoft acquiring them. You have Microsoft putting the budget in there. I would like to see that kick off. Having a mixed reality headset myself, Microsoft offers a lot of benefits to its mixed reality space, not only in gaming but also in the real world with its augmented reality. And there's things that you can do where like in programs such as SolidWorks, this isn't necessarily a Microsoft thing, but you can put a tile down and then you can take your smartphone and you can do a 3D model and look around something in a real space, and it's augmented reality. So Microsoft is able to do that like in medical practices. They can do that in advertisements and displays. A lot of it's in real estate and construction that they do it right now. And that's something where they're not necessarily going to acquire a company, but they've got companies who have experience using, lower end technology with, a limited amount of resources. Now you give them the Microsoft, like old reliable box, and there's a lot more potential for that to exponentially take over. And I think that's one of the reasons why when we compare this to like Disney, I think a lot of people are more okay with Microsoft acquiring stuff, because I think people don't look at Microsoft and go, oh, well, Microsoft owns everything. I think that's the big difference is Microsoft is a company that, is big, it's huge, and it's got a lot of technology that it's been investing into, but a lot of that technology comes back to help you in the long run. It advances society in a way. It's not like Apple where they're just investing into their, Apple ecosystem. That's it. Microsoft, when you invest into Microsoft and they are able to expand exponentially in one field, it eventually comes down and trickles down to every aspect of business, because the majority of businesses run through some form of PC. A lot of it runs through Microsoft. Some run in Linux, but very specific like POS terminals. So I think that's one of the cool things about Microsoft acquiring so much more is that it is kind of, I think, helping society in the long run. I don't know what your take on that is, Tim.
I agree. And I think you have to realize many years ago when Apple was about to go under, Bill Gates, in order to avoid being sued for monopoly, went over and handed a bunch of money to Apple. And it's not necessarily that they want to control the market. That's definitely not the goal, at least from what it views as a gamer and as a adult living in society. I agree with you. They invest tons of money into different things other than just gaming. Microsoft Office Suite, they've expanded that. When I was a kid, it was literally like WordPerfect, and then they came out with Microsoft Word, and then they had Excel and PowerPoint, and then since then they've added things like Teams and Yammer and Access and so many more like innovative things that are just there to help business. And I think that made a big difference to them, and it helped them grow. Because I mean, everybody knew that PC was basically for business. Apple was for the creative types who wanted to do animation and artistic drawing and 3D modeling and rendering, but yet AutoCAD was still always PC.
Mhm.
I mean, you had some of them that ran in Linux, but for the most part, like you said, a majority of programs are written and coded in PC formats, which is why when it took several years for even the Microsoft Office suite, which everybody used for business, to even transfer over to Apple. And nobody really uses Apples for gaming.
Mhm.
Like, most of the time, you end up having people that go on there and do a split operating system just to play their games. Because it's just how they're written, it's how they're coded, it's how it functions, and it's just so much easier to get on and write a bunch of code for PC than it is to go on and do anything with Apple, where at the end they're going to go through and scrupulously detect everything in your entire program, and basically at the end they can say no, and they've just copied your entire program when you send it in for security. So if you don't have it patented, be careful. I mean, things like that could happen, and I think it came down to the functionality of it. And I think everybody tends to like easy functionality, but a lot of people like freedom. And I know I may be in the minority here, but I am not a big Apple person. Apple is very secure, but it also is very restrictive. Because it's so secure, it's secure from you being the owner of it. You can't go on and recode your phone. You can't go on and install whatever application you want as a third-party application to it. Whereas with an Android phone, you can go on and rewrite the entire code to your phone and make your phone into a GPS. You can go on and rewrite your phone and make it into strictly a gaming phone. You can do whatever you want with it. You can run different programs and do bat files on it to give it specialized coding, like, oh crap, I have this date and it's going terribly. I hit a button on my phone that looks like Spotify, and what it actually does is send me a text that's like, hey, we need you at home immediately, there's an emergency. You can do whatever you want with it. You can't do that with Apple. Like, you can't program, create your own files, because if it doesn't come from the Apple store, it's super restrictive. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of people. People who are tech savvy tend to be PC people, tend to be Android users. People who are a lot more, oh, I just use it for this one purpose. I just use it for calls and text, keep in touch with family. It's a phone. I don't really care. They tend to be Apple users because it's just simplistic. And, it's not that they can't learn. It's just that that's probably what they've used since the beginning of time, and that's what they're used to. So, personally, I prefer the freedom aspect of being able to do whatever I want with my device. When I buy it and I own it, it's mine.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big factor for you with like digital games, is you don't own them. And I know a lot of people took note when Apple got sued by a lady who bought a movie digitally, and she took them to court because they removed the content. Like, it was a licensing disagreement. They removed it entirely from their library, and this lady had it on her Amazon Videos account, and it was gone. She couldn't activate it because it wouldn't play from their server because the server didn't have the data anymore. And it was a lawsuit. And that was when they basically had to come out and state, anything you buy on Amazon Video or Amazon Music is a licensing agreement. We give you access to that license only while we keep it. Until when we lose it or when we get rid of it, it's not there, it's not there. So when they restrict content, when they say, no, we're not going to, make these books available on Amazon stores, that's their choice. They have that right to do that, but it's kind of in that same ballpark where it's, if they want to be restrictive, they can. If they want to be open, they can. But digital content is pretty much never yours unless you have it downloaded entirely on a device. If it has to connect to some server somewhere, if that server doesn't have the data, you don't get any access.
Matt, what do you feel about Microsoft in this situation? How do you feel they stand in the good guy, bad guy debate?
That's a tough question. I think they're just kind of testing the waters. I think they're kind of riding the middle ground. You can look at him as a good guy buying up properties, trying to make things happen. I think really what it boils down to is they're really trying to shore up their digital library and bring everything over and make it accessible. And I think if you look at like Tim's referring to, like if you look at Windows versus Mac or Android versus iPhone, I think he's right on with it. I think you're Apple, you're safe, you're secure, but you can't really do anything. Same with Android. You're not necessarily secure, but you have more platform and freedom of choice. And I think that's kind of what Microsoft, in the end, to wrap it up, is what they're really doing. They're trying to make more conscious decisions based on business and trying to bring more things to gaming that I think the other companies really aren't thinking of. And I think if you look at the debate, I mean, they're just kind of testing it out. They're just I don't see them as bad. I don't see them as good. Same with Sony. I don't see them as bad as good. I just see it as they're just really trying to, at the end of the day, make a buck and do what's best for gaming and media and platforms going into the future. And as far as digital media being taken from you, that's a whole nother episode right there, man. We don't have the time in the day for that, but maybe that'll be a future episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you're right, Matt. That's about all the time we have for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for being with it. No, you guys are amazing. Thank you for all the people in the live audience this week for being here. We appreciate that. If you guys look under your seats, you will see nothing because this is Dis to Digital. We don't have anything to give you. It's a digital podcast. So thank you for all for being here. And thank you online who are listening to this for joining us today. If you have any questions or a topic you want us to discuss, feel free to reach out to us on our Twitter with the hashtag Dis to Digital.
And don't forget, you can also reach out on our Discord and our Facebook page where we talk about the things you love and share some of our greatest gaming experiences.
Yes, feel free to stop on by. And from all of us here at Dis to Digital, I'm Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton. And it looks like the writers gave my line to Tim this week. Tim, take it away.
And I'm Tim. We'll see you next time on Dis Digital.
Take care.